Hello everyone, this is Anup Das and I welcome you all to my channel. Today we are going to analyze the poem Fog by Sandburg. It's meant for the students of CBSE class 10th and anybody interested. So without further delay, let's get started. Sandburg was an American poet, biographer, journalist, and editor. He was born in 1878 in Illinois to Swedish immigrants. He worked in various jobs such as a milkman, a bricklayer, and a soldier before he became a writer. He won 3 Pulitzer Prizes for his poetry and his biography of Abraham Lincoln. He died in 1967 in North Carolina. He is known for his realistic and lyrical poems that celebrate the American people and landscape. The central message of the poem Fog is that nature is mysterious, unpredictable, and beautiful. The poet compares the fog to a cat, which is a metaphor that captures the fog's graceful, silent, and elusive qualities. The poet also shows how the fog transforms the city and the harbor, creating a different mood and perspective. The poem suggests that the poet admires and respects nature and wants to share his observation and appreciation with the readers. Fog is a short poem that uses an extended metaphor to compare fog to a cat. The poem was published in 1916 in Sandburg's first major poetry collection, Chicago Poems. The poem consists of 6 lines divided into 2 stanzas. The first stanza describes how the fog arrives on little cat feet and settles over the city and the harbor. The second stanza describes how the fog sits on its silent haunches and then moves on. The poem captures the transient and mysterious nature of fog as well as the beauty of simple movements in nature. The poem also demonstrates Sandburg's skill in using vivid imagery, descriptive language, and poetic devices such as alliteration, sibilance, and personification. The poem is considered an example of an American haiku, a form of poetry that is influenced by the Japanese haiku, but it does not follow its strict rules of syllables and structure. Line 1, The Fog Comes. This line introduces the main subject of the poem, which is the fog. The verb comes implies that the fog is not always present, but arrives at a certain time or place. Line 2, On Little Cat Feet. This line compares the fog to a cat using a metaphor. The fog is said to have little cat feet, which suggests that it moves quietly, softly, and gracefully. The comparison also gives the fog a sense of personality and life, as if it is a living creature. Line 3, It sits looking. This line continues the metaphor of the fog as a cat and describes what it does after it arrives. The fog is said to sit looking, which implies that it is observing and resting. The word sit also suggests that the fog is stable and calm, not moving or changing. Line 4, Over Harbor and City. This line specifies the location where the fog settles. The fog covers both the harbor and the city, which are two contrasting places. The harbor is associated with water, ships, and trade, while the city is associated with buildings, people, and activity. The fog obscures both of these places, creating a sense of mystery and silence. Line 5 on silent haunches. This line repeats the metaphor of the fog as a cat and describes its posture. The fog is said to sit on its silent haunches, which are the back legs of an animal. This image reinforces the idea that the fog is quiet, graceful, and watchful. The word silent also contrasts with the noise and bustle of the city and the harbor, which are hidden by the fog. Line 6 and then moves on. This line concludes the poem and describes what the fog does after it sits. The fog simply moves on, which implies that it leaves as quietly and swiftly as it came. The fog does not linger or interact with the city or the harbor, but just passes by. This line also suggests that the fog is unpredictable and transient, as it can appear and disappear at any time. We have already gone through the poem. Now let's discuss what we found out in the poem. The poem is a short and simple description of fog rolling into a harbor and city. The fog is personified as a cat, moving silently and gracefully. It sits quietly, observing the world before moving on. The poem captures the ephemeral and fleeting nature of life and the beauty of simple moments. We also came to know that the poem uses an extended metaphor of comparing the fog to a cat, which is a creative and original way of depicting the fog's qualities. The metaphor also suggests a sense of mystery and curiosity, as the fog and the cat are both elusive and unpredictable. The metaphor also creates a contrast between the natural and the urban, as the fog, or even the cat, sits over the harbor and the city, which are symbols of human civilization and activity. Now let's find out what poetic devices are used in this poem. The poem uses alliteration and sibilance to create a musical and soothing sound. For example, the words fog, feet, sits, and silent all start with the same consonant sound, creating a sense of harmony and rhythm. On the other hand, the words city, silent, and haunches also contain the letter S, which produces a soft and hissing sound, mimicking the sound of the fog or the cat. The poem thus has a simple and clear structure, with two sentences that describe the fog's arrival and departure. The poem also uses parallelism, as the first and the last lines both start with the fog. The poem also uses enjambment, as the lines run over to the next without punctuation, creating a sense of continuity and fluidity. The poem ends with a full stop, which gives a sense of finality and closure. Carl Sandburg once said, "Time is the coin of life. Only you can determine how it will be spent." Well, that brings us to the end of this video. Stay connected for more of such analysis. Till then, keep learning, keep exploring.